If you look around the NASCAR headlines on who's dominating nowadays in 2021 going into 2022, Kyle Larson is your man you're going to see. He has been everywhere that is up front this season. But before that, he still was a good driver, but at the same time, wasn't as dominant as he is now. He started his career in Cup in 2014, taking over the 42 Chip Ganassi Racing Chevrolet, and he ran really well, nearly making the chase. And on top of that, he was somebody who was just stealing the spotlight at the end of different races here and there. Now, the next couple years, he did win a race, but at the same time, he was very inconsistent. But coming into 2017, it seemed like he was having his awakening as a premier and contending driver. At the Daytona 500 starting out, he was actually leading the race with 2 laps to go. He led to the white flag, blocking Kurt Busch, but going into turns 1 and 2, he ran out of gas. He ended up sputtering home to a 12th place finish, but it was a good start to the season, and it was really good considering the fact that at the super speedways, Larson has always been, pretty terrible. But it only got better from there. The next 3 weeks in a row, he finished second at Atlanta, then Las Vegas, then at Phoenix. While he didn't lead many laps, he started up front, ran up front, and continued to just improve week after week. So, going into the 5th race at the Auto Club Speedway, he was actually leading the points, which continued because he won the pole and dominated that race, leading 110 of the 202 laps run from the pole. He finally got a win there. He'd had so many close calls before and had run so well there before, but he finally broke through. And it really was looking like 2017 was going to be a special year. Now, he was a little bit inconsistent after that, but for the most part, he led the points for the early part of the year, the first half of the year for the most part. And he never dipped below 3rd in the standings during the regular season. So, he was consistent, led plenty of laps at both Bristol and Dover, and again would break through, winning from the pole at Michigan, leading 96 laps and basically having a repeat in performance from his Auto Club performance. Both of those being sister tracks, it was probably reasonable to assume that Larson was going to be pretty good in that race. But what Larson had to prove was both how he could battle back from adversity, and also he probably would need to win at a different type of track other than a fast D-shaped oval. He was inconsistent and he had to fight through that. The next 2 races after his win were a 26th place finish at Sonoma, a lap down even after winning the pole, and a 29th place crash at Daytona with a couple laps to go. To be fair, at least it was a memorable crash. But he did follow this up again with 2 second-place finishes, kind of like earlier in the season. Unfortunately, the inconsistency would continue on. He was part of the absolute wreckfest at Indianapolis, finished 33rd at Pocono and 23rd at the Glen. He needed to pick me up right before the playoffs so he could get some momentum going in and actually compete for the championship against guys like Kyle Busch and the insanely dominant Martin Truex Jr. And Michigan was the medicine for Larson's team. You see, he started 9th and he ran up front all day, but he wasn't as dominant as he was at both Auto Club or the first Michigan race. But, like I said, he ran up front and put himself in position to win. And in the words of Lee Diffie, he had a blinding great restart and gapped the field going on to get another win. It was a great change in momentum. He was back up to 2nd in points, and after a Bristol night race top 10 and a kind of okay finish at Darlington after leading a ton of laps, he actually won at a track that wasn't Michigan or Auto Club. But it was still a D-shaped oval, this time at the short track in Richmond. And he led 53 laps. He wasn't the most dominant car all night, but he was able to hold off the field in a green-white checker finish and come home for the final regular season race, winning and being in the 2nd seed entering the playoffs. So far, this was far and away Larson's best season statistically and just about in every way. Eye test, doesn't matter what it was Larson's best season. And going into Chicagoland, a lot of people thought that he could be a favorite to win there and immediately lock himself into the round of 12. Well, he didn't do that, but he did get a good solid top 5, which he followed up with a 2nd place finish the next week and then dominated Dover, leading 137 laps, but ending up with the 5th place finish. So he easily transferred on to the round of 12, which was going to be a trouble round because it did have Talladega. But in thinking of how he was in the past, he should probably be pretty good at Charlotte and Kansas. At least that's what people were thinking at the time. He got a top 10 at Kansas, and while he crashed out of Charlotte, he had run well there before. Well, he did run okay there. He finished 10th in the first race of the round in Charlotte. He led 12 laps. He also put the gap to plus 19 as he was second in points, leaving the mile and a half. So that left Talladega, the big wild card. And he was one of them that survived some of the melee, but being involved, he still finished off the lead lap. Lucky for Larson, attrition was not something that was very much in style that day, and he finished 13th position, dropping him to 3rd in points, but going into Kansas, he was 29 points above the cut line. He just needed a solid race, and he'd make it to the round of 8, where he probably would have been a little bit better off. Well, they didn't even reach the end of the first stage, as Kyle Larson's engine expired, and with it, his season did. It wasn't just that his season was over, it was a fact of how abrupt it was. You see, with some seasons like Michael Waltrip's 2003 season, you see it over time just compound onto itself, and the collapse is over a quarter of a season or half a season. This season collapse was literally one race, not even a race, a third, not even a third, a quarter of a race. With it, Larson ended up missing by 9 points. He finished 39th. He earned no stage points. He earned no bonus points. He earned 1 point on the day, and with that, was eliminated from the playoffs. But there were still 4 races remaining. Larson would want to finish off the season on a hot note and build some momentum in 2018. You see, after his engine problems at Kansas, he then had issues when it came to crashing. First at Martinsville. Then, at Texas the next week, he also crashed out after leading 74 laps. Both of these races resulting in 37th place finishes. Phoenix seemed to be a track that maybe Larson could get better at, but it was to no avail, as he blew another engine just above 100 laps into the day. He finished 40th, last on the grid, after only leading 12 laps. And with only 4 guys remaining for the championship, it meant that 5th on down were based on points earned in those last 9 races, and Larson was still 9th. After a season where after Daytona and Atlanta he never went below 3rd, this was absolutely terrible. Yes, he finished 3rd at Homestead, right behind Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch. He led tons of laps, but he only was able to get himself up to 8th in the point standings. Not really that great of a season again for someone who was never below 3rd from the 4th week of the season all the way through the 31st week of the season. Now, he did stay competitive the rest of his career at Ganassi, but never to the heights of 2017. He did earn a win. He did have top 10 points finishes again, but he was never somebody who week in and week out you knew was going to contend for a win. Then in 2020, during the pandemic break, he ended up using a racial slur on a stream and getting jettisoned not just from Ganassi, but the sport. In 2021, Rick Hendrick gave him a second chance, and as we talked about at the start of this video, he absolutely dominated NASCAR's top series, winning the championship and 10 races to boot. But looking back at 2017, I want to pass this on to you. What do you think about a season collapse? Is this one of the worst that you've ever seen? Is it one of the worst that Larson's ever going to have? Or are there worse ones out there? Let me know down in the comments below what you think of his 2017 collapse. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content like this. Also, to all my channel members, you guys are so awesome. Thank you so much for your support. So until next time, have a good one.